suing child support agencies in federal court, and piercing the armor of 11th Amendment immunity. Get comfortable, because this one is going to get good. If you've ever been caught in the tangled web of child support enforcement, you know how relentless these agencies can be. But what if I told you there is a way to fight back in federal court and pierce the armor of 11th Amendment immunity that these agencies often hide behind? That's right. You have the right to hold these agencies accountable, and it starts with understanding the power of administrative process and how to leverage legal strategies to challenge their immunity and seek real monetary relief, not just injunctive orders. Administrative process and default judgment. The first step in this process is understanding the importance of the administrative process. Before you can even think about stepping into federal court, you need to have a solid administrative record. This is where the groundwork is laid. An administrative process involves sending a series of legal notices to the child support agency, clearly stating your position, demanding evidence, or requesting certain actions. These notices are not just pieces of paper. They are legal instruments that compel the agency to respond. And when they don't respond, that's when things get interesting. If the agency fails to reply or address your demands within the stipulated time frame, it leads to what's called a default judgment. A notice of default and dishonor, effectively, states that the agency has agreed to the terms by not contesting them. Now think about that for a moment. An agency that doesn't respond is an agency that is tacitly agreeing to your terms. When this happens, you have effectively set the stage for further legal action. Now here's where we start digging deeper. The 11th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution generally protects state agencies from being sued in federal court. But there's a catch. That immunity is not absolute. In fact, if the agency's behavior constitutes certain actions, like not responding to a default judgment, they could be seen as having implicitly waived their immunity. Implied waiver of immunity occurs when a state or its agency engages in conduct that is inconsistent with asserting immunity. By failing to respond to your notices, by defaulting on the administrative process, they might just have unintentionally waived their right to claim immunity. And here's the kicker. Continued harassment or action against you after their acceptance of terms, as documented in your default judgment, can be argued as further dishonor, supporting your claim that they waived their 11th Amendment immunity. This is where you start pushing back hard. If the agency continues to pursue actions against you after the administrative process is completed and the default is in place, you can argue they are engaging in continued harassment. This behavior not only violates the due process rights guaranteed to every individual under the Constitution, but also strengthens your case that they are acting in bad faith. You now have grounds to assert that their immunity should be lifted because they've gone beyond their lawful authority. We call this ultra-vires, acting beyond the scope of their legal power. When an agency acts in bad faith or outside its authority, they can be challenged on the grounds of estoppel and unclean hands. This legal doctrine means that if they are acting deceitfully, unfairly, or dishonorably, they are barred from claiming immunity or any legal protection. Think of it as calling out a cheater in a game. You broke the rules, so you don't get to hide behind them anymore. By using these arguments effectively, you can establish that the child support agency has forfeited its right to claim sovereign immunity and must face the consequences of its actions. Taking a child support agency to federal court is no small feat. Courts are generally protective of state sovereign immunity, and most judges are cautious about waiving it, unless there's a clear reason to do so. That's why your case needs to be airtight. Your administrative record should be meticulously documented. Every notice served, every default issued, and every piece of evidence showing continued harassment should be well organized and ready to present. The good news? Courts also don't like bad actors. If you can demonstrate that the agency's actions were done in bad faith or were outside the bounds of their authority, you have a shot at piercing their immunity and holding them accountable. Here's where it gets even more promising. If you successfully argue that the agency has waived its immunity and the court agrees, you're not just limited to injunctive relief, stopping their actions. You can go for monetary relief. That's right. You could potentially receive compensation for damages, arrears that were unjustly enforced, and the emotional and financial toll this system has put on you. This is about more than just stopping the machine. It's about reclaiming what's rightfully yours. So what's the bottom line? Child support agencies have operated unchecked for too long, hiding behind the veil of immunity. But with the right strategy, persistence, and legal know-how, you can challenge this system. You can hold these agencies accountable. The Child Support Discharge Package provides the tools, documents, and guidance to navigate these waters. Remember, it's not just about fighting back. It's about winning back your rights, your freedom, and your life. So gear up, because this fight is one you can win.